Thank you so much, everyone, for attending today's session. Today, we're going to be talking about From Campus to Competitive Advantage, the case for industry-academia collaboration in data and AI. I will be moderating this fireside chat. My name's Maya. I'm a partnership specialist at Northeastern University, Toronto. For those who might not know much about us, Northeastern University was founded in 1898 in Boston, and for over 125 years, experiential learning has been at the core of everything we do. Our Toronto campus opened in 2016 and was our first international campus. We're graduate-focused, with master's level programs spanning technology, life sciences, project management, and data analytics, all designed to support the province's workforce needs. Today, we hope that you'll be leaving this session with a practical framework to shift your organization's posture from transactional recruiting to sustained academic partnership, to leverage co-op programs, capstone projects, and embedded research models to generate real organizational output, and position your organization as the destination of choice for Canada's next generation of data and AI talent. Today's fireside chat will feature Professor John Wilder, the academic lead for our Master's in Applied AI program, and an assistant teaching professor for both our Applied AI and Analytics program. His research journey has taken him through roles as a research associate at the University of Toronto and as a postdoctoral researcher at both York University and the University of Toronto. This session will also feature Tim Morton, co-founder of Prompta AI, a transformation leader focused on helping organizations use AI-enabled workforce insight signals to improve the success of complex change. Through Prompta AI, he is reshaping how organizations approach change by tuning workforce signals into actionable intelligence. Thank you both so much for joining me today. So to get this chat started, I really wanted to start with Tim. When you look at organizations that struggle most with AI adoption, what role does talent readiness play, and where does that transformation tend to break down?
Yeah, thanks, and hi, everybody. I think the biggest thing from a talent perspective is we assume that people are going to come along for the journey. We believe that, oh, hey, this is a great enabler, they're just going to want to use it. And we know that that's so far from the truth. And a lot of times what we're doing is we're looking at these transformations as if they're technical. But we're transforming businesses. So we've got to bring the talent along. We've got to understand where their fears are, where their resistance is. We've got to understand where those signals are. And we've got to adjust how we prepare and how people managers and leaders adjust. And where it's breaking because we think it's an event. We roll something out, but we don't support people in how to use it, why we're using it, how this is going to impact us, our customers, our ways of working, and our brand. So it's really important that we stop thinking about these as technical implementations, as business transformations, and we stop the silos. We create collaboration from IT and business. So, I think there's a lot we can do.
Definitely. And when it comes to that AI adoption piece, Professor John, what do you think is the biggest misconception between what senior leaders think universities are actually producing and what we are producing?
I think one of the, am I on?
I think so.
I think one of the differences is that there's sort of an expectation that AI education means somebody who's going to learn to program and, create or deploy AI code. And I think there's a lot of room for education about AI that isn't programming.
Mm-hmm.
So the people in a company who are going to make choices about data governance and what are our policies on data privacy, they could be programmers, but they don't need to be. And so there's a lot of AI education that can, be more general and doesn't need to only affect people who are programming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if I could just jump in even one thing with that, my team would never allow me into the back end. And they're very wise. Mm-hmm. I'm a president of an AI company, but they'd never allow me back. I have a partner for that, and we have a team for that, but that's not my role. And we'd be out of business if I was in the back end.
Thanks so much, Tim. So Tim, have you thought about engaging with academic institutions as a startup, and through your collaboration with Northeastern, what surprised you about what can be unlocked through this industry-academia partnership?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is different perspectives and different ways of looking to solve problems. Because so often we work with organizations that are going through transformation and trying to put AI in. And so much of the mindset is on how do we recreate what we already have, or how do we enhance it or automate it? But what we see when we're working with students who have that knowledge is, what if we shift how we're thinking? And they don't come with preconceived notions. And it becomes really incredible from a way of thinking about complete new ways of working and challenging all of those assumptions that we have as business people or as business leaders. And it becomes tremendously invaluable.
Thank you. And Professor John, in your experience, what does a genuinely productive partnership look like in practice, and what separates it from a company that just posts on a university job portal?
So a good partnership is recognizing the strengths and limitations of students, and then preparing students for what work looks like in the real world. And so part of that is, in education, we need to prepare students for messy data or real privacy issues, or I guess, how do you interact with legacy systems? And from, I guess, the other perspective, some of the successful partnerships we've had were where, like, I was teaching a data visualization class, and we were just visualizing data for a partner, and they came to the final presentations and watched the students, and what was really valuable to them was that I had like 10 groups of students all analyzing the same data, but there was that diversity in approach. And so I guess that was a surprise, because they kind of assumed that, well, based on how you teach your class, everybody's going to kind of follow the same steps. But that's not what actually happened. And then the students really benefited from seeing real-world feedback, where I can give them feedback, but I don't know where the data came from, and I don't know what that organization really wanted to get out of the data. And by being present, they were able to give that feedback, which they could ask questions and get those answers themselves, but it was also valuable for the students to see, what does it look like, or like, what are the questions that really matter, or that I guess other people will have, other perspectives will give that I as a professor didn't have.
Definitely. And as our faculty lead for the new Masters in Applied AI program, what do you feel like the program is preparing graduates for that's not just what exists today, but 5 years in the future?
So all of our programs are very applied focused. And so our goal is to make sure that we graduate students who are able to be productive on day one on the job. But AI is changing so rapidly that we can't just prepare students for what is coming out right now. But I think the biggest thing that we want to focus on is learning how to learn. And so teaching skills on how to pick up like the new AI techniques, or how to understand a new model quickly, instead of, I guess, only focusing on learning the actual information about AI, but I guess learning how to ingest new information easily and quickly.
Thank you. And Tim, as someone who works so deeply in change management, what does the data tell you about how organizations are actually absorbing AI talent, and what's getting in the way?
Oh, wow. We're not doing a good job. Like, at the end of the day, we're not doing a good job. We're bringing in talent. So you're doing your job, and we're bringing talent into organizations, And these folks have new tools, they have new skills, they have great abilities, and they're getting frustrated. They're getting really frustrated in a lot of cases because they come in and they're hearing about a culture that's innovative and ready to take on new challenges. And right away they're told, no, we won't be doing that. They're having to learn technology that's 10 years, 20 years. They know that there's a better way, but a lot of times they just don't have a voice. And what we're seeing is we're bringing in resources thinking we can solve problems with resources, as opposed to how do we transform the ecosystem of that business? How do we make sure that there's new ways of working? How do we leverage the skills and the capabilities and talents of people we're bringing in? And I think there's a big change that needs to happen both with leadership and also with HR, rethinking about if we're selling a bill of goods and we're bringing people in that have invested in new skills and new capabilities, let's make sure we hear their voices. We understand what they can bring, and we start, and of course we're managing risk, but it's so important because what we're seeing is that a lot of talent just ends up either frustrated or walking out the door, going to another organization.
Thank you. No, that's really, oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to chime in just because you reminded me of another thing about like a good, positive partnership. I was talking to a student who was just finishing up a co-op, and they had told me what they found most impactful about the co-op experience was that they weren't treated as somebody who is kind of coming in but not allowed to do anything and is kind of pushed to the edge as they learn, but they found it really valuable that they did have a voice and they could be involved in like the real actual work and making, I guess, important decisions and choices right away. And I think that is a sort of thing where it differentiates between a learning experience versus just a job.
Those are really fantastic insights. And Tim, in Canada specifically, we've been seeing a lot of investment into AI innovation. But from your perspective, what structural barriers are preventing Canada from translating our world-class research into scaled, production-grade ready AI? And what would close that gap?
Yeah, I think as Canadians, we're very risk averse. Like, we are so risk averse, and we're trying to hold on. Leaders are trying to hold on to the power that they've got, to the control they've got within the organization. And there's a lot of risk and there's a lot of fear. And when we think about how we're trying to transform these organizations, one of the things that we're seeing is people are still using tools that they were using 30 years ago to manage change and transformation. There's no need for us not to be using signals and data and hearing people's voices. What's happening across organizations is, if you think about it, the number of transformational failures or even the number of AI pilots that never get into production, and part of that is they're not talking to the business. We've got all of these silos. We've got people trying to protect their power centers. We've got the inertia of, well, we don't do things that way. So part of what we need is actually really courageous leadership, but leadership that's tied to both the CIO and IT, but also the business working together as one unit. Because we're not bringing the business along. We see all of these CIOs are so frustrated across the board because we've got all of these great enablers. We can do so much to support the business, and the business isn't engaging. They're paying lip service, and then they wonder why there's not dollars the next year. And it's really, really important that we think about how do we work together as one unit, and how do we make sure that the transformation is sticking? We've got to get people from here to here. And we don't do it with one training session or one session in a town hall. We move people along and we listen to them, and we involve and engage them. And if we don't start doing that, we're going to see the failure rates continue.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tim. John, what's the most underleveraged opportunity in Canada's industry academia research right now when it comes to that sort of gap in the partnership?
So I guess one of the things I think gets lost a lot is how much AI research actually is coming from Canada. And I mean, we know the names like Jeffrey Hinton and Yoshua Bengio because they started the big deep learning kind of revolution. But so much of the work that gets done is done at companies in their Canadian branches, but because they're multinational, it just sort of gets incorporated in that company's ecosystem. So it isn't seen as something that Canada can do or that Canada can produce. And I think like there's a lot of room for companies to I guess, collaborate with industry or university researchers to, I guess, make sure back from pushing as far as we could on AI is addressing those fears by sort of making government policies or, I guess, other standards of these are things that are there to protect consumers, to protect Canadians, and make sure that people aren't being held back because of how afraid they are.
No, that's a really good point. Thank you. I have a question that I'd be interested in getting both of your perspectives on. For a VP or senior data leader in this room who wants to build a stronger university relationship, what's one concrete step you feel they could take coming out of this conference? Tim, if you'd like to start.
Yeah, one concrete thing, if you're going to look to partner with a university, it's really important that it's something that's actually real. I think that's a really important thing, because sometimes these opportunities and people, oh, let's just do this for the sake of doing it. And it's really important that you're actually addressing, solving a problem, or resolving something, and from there, that you're actually going to implement it. Because there's so much effort that goes into this, and if people are just making things up for the sake of making them up, oh, hey, we're ticking a box. That's not doing anyone any favors, and certainly not the Canadian economy. So it's really important that we've got a business case for something, and that we're all in, so that it's not a one size where, hey, you know what, the academia is going to go away and do this. The business needs to be actively engaged and participate and make sure that they're stating what the risks are, what the outcomes they're looking to achieve, what success looks like. Without that, we're doing a disservice. So we need to really, when we come together to work together, we need to think of ourselves, hey, we're one unit. We're not the university. We're doing a program together, and these are the outcomes, and not holding data back. Like, we still need to protect the company and cyber, all of that, but we can do things effectively, and much more effectively from a business perspective with academia than we are right now.
Thanks so much. Professor John, do you have anything to add?
I guess a good concrete step is reaching out. But when I try to connect with somebody at a company, I try to come with a proposal of, it's like, I know your company wants to solve this problem, and not, I'm going to solve that problem with my students, but how can we understand that problem better, and can we use sort of a classroom or a hackathon or some other partnership as a as a laboratory for exploration. And so I guess think about areas where there is room for discovery and exploration, and I guess come with ideas of that, because I think those are the places where partnerships can really be helpful, because I guess students are coming in from a completely different perspective than every other employee you have, and you'll get a huge range of proposals or results, and that, I guess, cuts down a lot of the exploration time that you'd have to do on your own otherwise.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't sure if you were adding something.
No, I was.
Perfect. Well, yeah, just wrapping up this session, I have a last question for Tim. What does Canada's data and AI ecosystem look like in 10 years if we get this collaboration right?
Wow, it looks much less risk averse. It looks much less silo based. It looks like we're actually creating an ecosystem that works, which includes academia, includes business, and includes government. Again, across our society, there's so many silos. There's repeat of effort, there's rework, and there's so much risk and resistance, and we've got to manage that. But from a perspective of a nation, we've moved to more innovative and actually taking charge and not being afraid to lead from an innovation perspective.
Thank you. And we have a minute if Professor John, you'd like to add anything.
I was going to follow up on that about, in 10 years, I think where we could be is at a point where, how should I say it? I guess we can do so much more exploration and so much more testing than we are doing right now. And I think partnership opportunities are a great place for that exploration. And I think also what's helpful is keeping track of all the stuff that doesn't work. I know when I would finish a class where I had a partner whose data we worked with for the semester, I give them the student reports at the end of the term, and not everything was successful, but I have the students explain what they learned or what needs to be different about the data we were given, and that feedback has been really helpful to those partners, because they were surprised, oh, we didn't know this would be an issue, or it just gives them an avenue to change to make it so that future projects can be more successful.
Definitely. Thank you both so much for sharing your insights today. We really appreciate it. I know that we have 5 minutes left for a Q&A period with the audience, and so we would really love to hear your questions. I believe there's someone with a microphone. Amazing.
Hello. I'm Basvi from Northeastern. I'm sitting in the middle of AI and project management and business analysis. So I kind of sit where we create a bridge between the change and the innovation. So as someone sitting in the middle, I want to ask a question. Do you think that the strategic partnerships can help the people who are managing this change to create a well-developed workflow where not everyone is just using the first thing that comes up in the market? Instead, they are analyzing it, creating a proper developed workflow and a strategic way to use that. Do you think the strategic partnerships can help that?
Yeah, I'll leave that for Tim.
Without question. And it's a great question. And we need to start to think about project management and change management and executive sponsors in different ways. It's not enough. You know, if you think about how we manage projects by phases, so pre-discovery, discovery, build, all of that. We manage that. We manage change by somebody at the start building a plan for 2 months and then trying to execute a static plan and not working closely with the project manager and not working closely. So there's opportunity. We really need to make sure that it's a seamless integration. Remove some of those silos and start to leverage signals, because the PM needs the signal, change needs, and the leaders and people managers need those signals to support their people as well. So yeah, great question. So removing silos and using data.
Thank you so much, Basvi. I know we have one more question in front we have time for.
Hi, I'm a second year data science student that just came out of second year at Prompta University. In your experience, what are the most important skills that university students lack? And how can a student make themselves more appealing to hire for companies to connect that kind of gap between university and actually getting hired in the field?
Wow.
So every academic program has a program advisory committee, and that is external industry professionals who give feedback on how to make sure your program stays up to date and current. And the feedback that we get from every one of those meetings is keep working on communication skills. And so when we get feedback from people who are employing our students, often they say it's like, their technical skills are great. Keep working on presentations, on writing, on just ways to communicate about data or AI that doesn't use jargon, that's understandable by their supervisors. They've learned how to talk with their peers about this, but at your job, that's not the only, you're not only talking to your team. Somebody from the team needs to communicate why that's important. And so I think that's the number one thing that keeps coming up.
Yeah, and just to build a little bit, just very quickly, culture. It's that for starting at a new company, starting to understand the culture, how work gets done, and how we operate, and that's the biggest thing from a success. Using the capabilities you've got, but understanding the working culture of the organization, and then hopefully trying to change it.
Perfect. Thank you so much to our speakers and for everyone for joining us here today. I hope you have a lovely rest of the conference.